Now, I'm very proud to say I am not on any other medications. I don't have to take cholesterol medicine or high blood pressure medicine or diabetes medicine or anything like that. But if I were, I do like it that I can get a year's supply of those life-saving medications. That way, if an emergency happens, then I would already have a year's worth of whatever medication I needed to keep me alive. Let me tell you a true story that's related to prepping and emergency preparedness. In 1864, a woman by the name of Isabella Lister was doing the mundane chore of sewing, and she accidentally cut her finger while she was sewing. Now, unfortunately for Isabella, this happened prior to the invention of antibiotics, and that simple little cut became infected and she ended up dying from it. And an interesting side note about this story is that her brother was Dr. Joseph Lister, and because of her death from a simple infection, he came up with antiseptic techniques that surgeons could use when performing surgery. And his antiseptic techniques to be used in surgeries became so widely used that years later, when a commercial mouthwash was developed, they named that mouthwash after him that we know as Listerine. Now, that story was not to tell you about how Listerine was developed, but that story was a gateway for me to talk about how millions of people died from simple infections doing mundane chores before the invention of antibiotics. And that story was also a gateway for me to talk about the solution that I use to ensure that I have an emergency stash of regular medications, such as cholesterol medicine or heart medicine or whatever kind of medications like that, but then also an emergency stash of actual real human antibiotics that I can have for me and my family before things go sideways. Now, one huge problem for us preppers has been getting our doctors to prescribe us a year's worth of many of these medications that a lot of different preppers and people are on, whether it's having a year's worth of antibiotics up front in case an emergency happens and you get an infection and you need those antibiotics, or getting a year's worth of your heart medicine or your cholesterol medicine or your anxiety meds or whatever it is that you might be on. But anyways, with us always tinkering on being on the verge of World War III and with the medication shortages we've been having lately, I knew it was time for me to get really serious about being medically prepared for my family. So what I am choosing to do is to go with Jase Medical for me and my family. That way we can have antibiotics and any other regular medications that we might be on up front, but again, before things go sideways. So while I have been learning to make my own natural medicine lately, I do recognize that there are just some infections that get severe enough, or other ailments that you might have, that natural medicine sometimes just can't cure. So again, I am choosing to go with Jase Medical for me and my family so that we can have powerful antibiotics up front before things go sideways. Or if we were on any other medications like cholesterol medicine or diabetes medicine or anxiety meds or something like that, we can have a year's worth of those again up front before things go sideways. Now, in this video, you're going to see what you receive if you get Jase Medical, and I'm also going to go over the reasons why I am choosing Jase Medical. And then if you feel like Jase Medical would not be good for you, then you feel free to click off the video. And then if you end up making a purchase, then you end up helping to put food in my kids' mouth, so thank you. So the reasons why that I decided to go with Jase Medical is, number one, they do get shipped right to my door. Hey, also too, you can use this service if you are in the United States or Canada. And like I said earlier, not only can I get an emergency supply of antibiotics, but I can also get a year's supply of any other prescription medications that I could be on, such as cholesterol medicine or heart medicine or diabetes medicine or anxiety meds or anything like that. And another thing that I like about Jase Medical is that with them you get unlimited follow-ups with them. So once you get your kit, once you get your medications, if you have more questions, questions, you can contact them with those questions and you won't get an additional charge for them. Now, if you choose just to go with the antibiotics, which is what's called the basic Jase case, here's what you're going to get, and excuse me while I completely butcher the name of these antibiotics. You're going to get amoxicillin, and just as a side note, all of these antibiotics were carefully chosen by real doctors at Jase Medical because these 5 antibiotics will take care of the vast majority of the different infections that we get. You also get azithromycin, ciprofloxacin, I think commonly called Cipro, doxycycline, and no, this doxycycline that you get does not become toxic after its expiration date. It's actually tetracycline that becomes toxic, and tetracycline does not come with your Jase case. And then you also get metronidazole. And through Jase Medical, you can also get some other medications that some doctors balk at prescribing, such as ivermectin. And another thing that I like about Jase Medical is that these prescriptions are prescribed by real doctors here in the United States, and they're also filled by a real pharmacy here in the United States before they're shipped to your door, and they are also meant for human consumption. And to be transparent, I have bought fish antibiotics in the past for me and my family in case of an emergency, but I was never comfortable with that because those fish antibiotics are obviously meant for fish. I just always had those concerns. Were these fish meds, were they pure medications? Was I also researching the correct dosages to take on those fish meds correctly? And then did that company that I was buying those fish meds from properly handle and store those fish meds before they came to my door? Because some companies out there treat things that are meant for animals just a little bit different than they treat things that are meant for human consumption. But again, with Jase Medical, I don't have to worry about all of that because it's prescribed by a real doctor. It's filled in a pharmacy, all here in the United States. Plus, they tell me the proper dosages to take for what ailments. And then also with this, you get this handy dandy guide booklet. It tells you what and how much of the antibiotics to take for different things such as bite wounds or pneumonia, etc. And like I've already mentioned a couple times in this video, I really like it that I can get more than just antibiotics through Jase. Now, I'm very proud to say I am not on any other medications. I don't have to take cholesterol medicine or high blood pressure medicine or diabetes medicine or anything like that. But if I were, I do like it that I can get a year's supply of those life-saving medications through Jase. That way, if an emergency happens, then I would already have a year's worth of whatever medication I needed to keep me alive. Now, you may ask, hey, what if I'm allergic to one of those antibiotics that come in the Jase case? Well, the good thing about Jase is that since a real doctor does the prescribing, if you are allergic to something, he can prescribe a substitute. That way you don't get something that you are allergic to. Now let's talk about how this works, and it's really simple. It only took me like 10 or 15 minutes. Step number 1, you go to their website and you fill out the form. And that is where you would actually list any medications that you would be allergic to. And then step number 2, then a board certified physician, a real doctor, will review your submission. And then if that doctor has any questions on what you've submitted, then they would contact you to get clarification. But in my case, I just simply got an email back from that doctor saying he had no questions about my submission and that he was prescribing the antibiotics for me. And then step number 3 is that the medications then get shipped right to your front door. And then if you have any questions about those medications once you receive them, again, you get unlimited free follow-ups with Jase Medical with your questions. Now let's talk about the cost of this, but first things first, again, if you use my discount code of ethical, you'll get $10 off of it, and with the discount code, it costs you about $259. If you don't use the discount code, it costs you right around $269. Now, before you freak out about that price, you have to remember, not only does that price include the cost of the antibiotics that you get, but that also includes the cost of that consultation that you get with the doctor, and it also includes those free unlimited follow-ups that you have with Jase after you make your purchase. Really, I think with all that, that's not a bad price at all to have an emergency stash of antibiotics for you and your family before things go sideways. And if you can't afford the whole $259 up front, is you can make the first payment and receive this Jase case and then make payments after that to finish paying it off. Now, Jase Medical does not accept medical insurance. However, you may be able to use your health savings account to make the purchase, but you will need to check with your HSA to make sure you can. Now let's talk about the claim of medications lasting for 15 years. And that all comes from a study that the FDA did on behalf of the military, and where they tested over 100 different types of medications, and they found that 90% of them still had really good efficacy after the 15-year mark. And of course, that's if the medications were stored correctly. So therefore, I store my medications that I get from Jase in my closet, not in my bathroom, but in my closet, because that is a cool, dark, and dry place. And this way I know that every year I don't have to go out and spend $259 to replace my antibiotics. But unfortunately, antibiotics don't always last for 15 years. The amoxicillin that you get in this case, it looks like studies shows that it will start losing potency after about 5 years. And then the azithromycin appears that it will start losing some of its potency, or losing its potency after 7 years. However, the Cipro appears to last well over 10 years. And with the doxycycline, one study showed that it was still potent at 5.5 years, and then it looks like another study showed that it was still potent after 20 years. So take that for what it's worth. And then the metronidazole was found to still be potent at the 3-year mark of the study. So take those studies for however you will, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace my antibiotics from Jase Medical just about every 5 years, unless things go sideways first. And to learn step by step how you can make simple, natural medicine from plants that grow in your backyard to treat simple ailments such as cuts, headaches, insect bites, and other ailments like that, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn those powerful prepper skills. Anyways, folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get back to work, and folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.